Look at Batra Daf, Kuf Lamed Zayin, continuing from Kuf Lamed Bet, Kuf Lamed Vav Amud Bet, 18 lines down. The last thing we mentioned was Rish Lakish mentioned that if you have access of the produce of an land, it doesn't mean you actually own the land at the time. We're going to ask a question on that now. Etzi Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish, they asked the question, Nechazad Lechab Acharecha Yirash Ploni V'Acharav, Yirash Ploni, right? So famous thing we had many times before. If a guy who's dying tells us a few people, first, it should be given to you. Then after he dies, it should go to the second guy. Then after he dies, it should go to the third guy. Metri shon kanashni. The first guy dies, it goes to number two. Meshani kanashishi. The second guy dies, it goes to number three. Metshani b'hayari shon. The second guy died before the first guy died. The properties go back to the first guy instead of going to number three. So therefore, vim ita, if you have access to the produce, is not considered uh, ownership of the property. It shouldn't say that it goes to the owner of the first guy. It should rather go to the heirs or the descendants of the original donor and not go back to the first receiver. Gemara says, he answers, we already answered when it says after you, that's a different type of transferring over than regular ownership. Also, same answer that whenever you say you're giving a gift and you say after this guy, after that guy, it's different. Okay, but Tanya Berta says, if the second guy dies during the first guy's life, it goes back to the original donor. So we see that it does go back. Where it says, tonight, name. Tanya Berta says, if my property should go to you, and then after this, so first guy went, sold the property, and used the money. The second guy can take the property back from the guys who bought it. He's supposed to get it. According to the Rashba, Gomer, and the Shnei you can only use whatever left over, and therefore, since it's used up, you don't get nothing. The meaning of stira, my property should go to you, then after you someone saw already shown it goes according to Rabbi, the first guy can go and consume it. You only have access to the fruits. Kasha de Rabbi, stira on both of them, Rashbag and Rabbi. Mary says the Rabbi la Kasha according to Rabbi the Gufa in regarding the land is referring to the land itself. And that he allows the second guy to get the land back. Regarding the fruits, and you want the first guy to sell it and consume the fruits, that's going to the fruits, not the actual land. The Rashbag is not a question. Also, the Rashbag is not a question. In the second braita rather, where it says that the first guy doesn't get the produce, that's how he should be acting. He should not touch it. In the first braita, where it says the sale goes through, is if he already sold it, we don't extract it. Who was considered like an evil or a smart Rasha. This is someone who tells someone else to sell something. According to Rashbag, that according to the opinion that holds that Rashbag holds, that if you sell it, the sale goes through, but he wasn't supposed to do it. So a person who's a smart Rasha is someone who advises people to do this to avoid having the gift revert back to someone else. But even Rashbag would agree if the guy gave it away, if the first receiver gave it to number two or gave it away to someone else via a gift as he was dying, lo asa klum doesn't work. My time, why? The gift of a person who's dying is transferred after death, and therefore, but once he dies, he doesn't have access to give it away anymore because it's to go to number three. We see elsewhere. When does a person acquire something that a dying guy gave away? It says when he at the same time he's dying. The Rava says after it. We see Abaye holds that it happens before the death itself. Where it says Abaye retracted. He says okay, we know he attracted one of them because it's a stira. So who says this is what he had retracted? Maybe he retracted in the second halacha that it happens before, and really he holds it happens afterward. Where it says no, it's not Mishnah says someone gives a get to his wife and says this is your get if he dies. If he dies from this illness, this is the get after his death. Lomar kun doesn't work. We see from here that Gittin happening after death doesn't work. So we see that when a person says something should be given over after death, it happens afterward. According to Rashbag, who holds that you only get leftovers, is applying even if the guy had slaves and he freed them. Gemara says pizza, of course, if he could sell it. So why can't he free him? Where it says, maybe you're not supposed to do an isur with it. Yeah. I mean, you want to sell property, that's one thing, but you shouldn't do an isur. The isur to free your Ebed Kanani. Even in that case, you can't stop him. Even if he used the property into the garment of the property into burial shrouds, and you still can't touch it. Why not? Maybe you can't use the item that would make it Isur Hana'a, right? Burial shrouds become Asur Hana'a because you're not allowed to use it for anything else ever again because it's designated for the dead person. Therefore, you say, even though he shouldn't have done it, it still works. Darash Rab Nachman bar Rav Hizda. Etrog zen atun lach matana. Someone says, I'm giving you an etrog as a gift. After you use it, give it to Rav Shimon. The first guy takes it and does his mitzvah. Baran Machoket Rabbi Rashbag, it's the same Machoket, whether or not he works. Matkif Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak, Ad kan obligate Rav Rashbag, Gvahatam. Only time they had a Machoket over there regarding the land, El the more Savar Kinyan Peruk Kinyan. That's regarding to what's considered ownership of the property. If I have access to the fruits, is that considered ownership of the land? More Savar Kinyan Peruk Lav Kinyan, and Rabbi holds that does not work. Regarding the etrog, if the guy can't use the mitzvah, the maya what was the point of giving it to him? So obviously he wanted to give it to him for the mitzvah. Says, the first guy definitely can use it for the etrog. What if he sold the etrog or ate it? We are at the machloket whether or not he was allowed to do that. If brothers inherited their father's property and they got an etrog, part of the property of their father was an etrog amongst other properties that didn't split yet. If one of them took the etrog and used it on chag, says mitzvah. If he would have been able to eat it and not been stopped, he just said. If he wasn't able to, they would have stopped him. They're not yesterday mitzvah either because obviously he doesn't have access. That only applies if you have multiple etrogim for each, one etrog for each brother. Parish or rimon, no, but if it's only one type of fruit, for example. If there's one guy has a pomegranate, one guy's an etrog, then it doesn't work because they have to have like a equal split. Someone says, I'm giving you the etrog as a gift. As long as I'm conditioned to give it back to me. If he took it, used it, and then gave it back, he should say mitzvah. If he didn't give it back, then he stole it, then it's not considered a good mitzvah. Kamashlan teaches you from here, by the way. We see from here that a gift that's given on condition that it has to be returned is still considered a good gift. I eat it as lady. Very interesting story. She owned a palm tree that was planted on the land of Rabibi. Every time she should go to harvest her fruits, have a kapita, he'd get upset because she used to ruin his field. He says, you know what? You could keep it for the rest of your life. While he did that, he gave it to his son to keep. Since you came from Eliah Cohen's family, you said something that's blemished, play on the words. Rashbag said that you're allowed to sell it. That means to sell it to someone else. But you can't give it back to yourself, through your son. Lo. You did it. You shouldn't have done that, and therefore the tree go back to the woman after he dies, even though you tried to give it to your son. Rabbi says, this ox should be given to you as a gift. On the condition he gave back to me. Let's say he made it hekdesh and then gave back. How does that mukdash umuhsar? It's hekdesh and it's returned. So now, seemingly, I'm giving you the ox, you have to give it back to me. You made it hekdesh and you gave it back to me, but at the same time, hekdesh, I can't use it. So, Amar le Rav Rahman, my adre, you didn't exactly return it to him. It's useless for him now. Amar le, my hasre, at the same time, he answers him back, and you're not missing anything. You have an ox in front of you. Amar Vasheh, Hazina, have to check out. Amar le, if you didn't give it back to me, ha'adre, give it back. Amanach, what he said, Amanach tahzirehu li, give it back to me. Midi the Hazle Kamar, you're not saying that he wants it back in its form, that's usable for him. And over here, if you made a hekdesh, then it's not considered given back and you have to replace it.